This week is going to be an exceptionally important week because this is where you want to target the thesis of your speech. And I like to call the thesis of a speech your big idea. Your big idea. So this week, that's what we're going to primarily be working on. So a lot of people tend to call the big idea of a speech a thesis statement. It's okay to do that. I just want you to know that when I am talking about the big idea, I'm really referring to the big idea of your speech, the thesis of your speech. And it's really the most important thing that you're going to be working on this week. Remember, your thesis statement equals your big idea, and your number one goal is to establish a big idea. And so the goal is to be able to establish a big idea that you can recreate inside the minds of your audience. And so by the end of this week, you should be able to, first of all, choose the topic of your speech. That's going to take a lot of thought. You need to be considering that now because you'll be delivering your speech in week 4. The second thing is you need to ask yourself some questions about what your subject is going to be, about what topic you choose. There's a lot of questions like, what am I passionate about? What do I need my classmates to hear? What do I want my classmates to hear? Also, this is the week, in addition to choosing your topic, it's the week you develop your big idea. Boil it down to one sentence. Boil the answer of your question down to one single, concise sentence. And then refine your big idea. You may want to refine it this week, next week, and the following week. But by the time you submit this big idea, by the end of the week, you should have already read all the information that I've provided you with about writing a good thesis statement, and then respond by writing this thesis statement, this big idea. And so the way you choose your subject is the way you're going to end up with your big idea. You may want to turn over a lot of rocks with a lot of questions in order to come up with this big idea. Remember, it's one big idea. One, not two, not three, but one. Because one big idea communicates. And more than one big idea tends to confuse your audience. You start up with one idea and then chase a rabbit trail to get to another idea and then to another idea. Just one big idea. And actually, there's a lot of good brain science that goes along with what I'm talking about here. Probably some of you have had an MRI, that is a magnetic resonance imaging, like an X-ray, when you had some kind of health problem. But there's another machine like this, and it's called a functional magnetic resonance imaging machine, where the MRI really hones in or focuses in on providing an image of your internal structure, the structures of your brain. The fMRI hones in on understanding the functions of your brain. And there's been some interesting science that has developed on this in the last few years, finding that successful speeches synchronizes brains across listeners, many listeners, creating what's called brain coupling. It's amazing to think about how all this works. But when you can really excite an audience with one big idea, you can start recreating in the brains of your listeners the same neuronal pattern as you have going on in your brain. Think about that. What a miracle that is. How on earth is it possible to recreate that big idea in a group of strangers' minds in just a few minutes? And so there's some very important questions that you need to ask at this point about your big idea. First of all, is it clear? People, your listeners, shouldn't have to guess at what you're talking about. And second, does it really state your position? Your big idea is not just an announcement. It's not like a Facebook post. It's a position statement. Your original and specific angle should be clear in your big idea. And then third, you need to ask yourself, did I bury the lead? Yes, I spelled that correctly. I know there's some controversy on that, and in journalism, it's generally, not always, spelled L-E-D-E instead of L-E-A-D. You get the gist. It's still the lead. Don't bury your big idea. Don't pronounce your big idea under the third point in your outline. And then next, does your big idea engage the audience? It needs to be something that will hook the audience's attention from the very beginning. And while we are on this topic of asking yourself questions, here are three more don'ts that you need to consider. Let me put it like this. First of all, imagine that you live in Dallas, Texas, and somebody comes up and asks you, how do I get to Detroit? Well, don't generalize. I mean, you could just say, well, just go north. You'll find it up there. You don't want to just generalize. That's not the way you go about establishing a big idea. And another don't is don't add needless information. Like, here's how you get to Detroit. First, you go see the Grand Canyon, and that'll be nice. And then go up and enjoy Yellowstone Park, and that'll be nice. And then make your way to Detroit on the way back. Oh, and by the way, check out the Statue of Liberty while you're going there. Do you get the point that I'm making here? You've got one big idea. Don't make it needlessly complicated. And then third, don't be overly specific. I think you know what I'm talking about here. There's some people you just almost hate to go up to and ask, how you doing today? Because they're going to tell you. Well, you don't want to make your big idea so specific that it turns your audience off from the very beginning. Back to the question again that we originally started with. Let's say you're living in Dallas and somebody says, how do I get to Detroit? Don't say, well, go up to 5th Street, turn right, make a U-turn at Kinnickinnick Lane, go 30 feet to the Purple House, make another U-turn. You'll see 3 highway signs there for Highway 44, Highway 35, and Highway 10. Well, get on 35, use the right-hand lane to get on 35, and then go north 34 1/3 miles and stop at Bubba's convenience store and get a map. Say hi to Billy Bob while you're there for me, and then get back on 35 and go straight north. I think you get the point. Don't be overly specific. These are important questions that you should ask when you're developing your big idea. So this is your first week in this class. And I think if you'll pay careful attention to this video, to the reading assignments that you have, to the other videos that I have for you to watch, this week is going to be a great success for you. And I promise you, if you get this week right, this whole course is going to be a great and beneficial course for you. So remember, week one lays the foundation for the rest of the course. So here's some important things to kind of review. First of all, read your syllabus carefully. I can't tell you how many students take the syllabus for granted. You should not do that. Secondly, read all of your assigned readings carefully. Watch all of your assigned videos carefully. Third, participate in the discussion forums enthusiastically. I can't overemphasize how important these discussion forums are. And then finally, do all of the assignments and take your quiz in a serious frame of mind. Don't take this course for granted. It has a lot of implications for your life. So I think that the big idea of this video has already been made in a big way. Mission this week is to really understand what a big idea is and write down the big idea for your speech that you will be delivering in week 4 of this class. Now, if you've got questions, don't hesitate to contact me. All of my contact information is listed in the course information tab on Brightspace.